Hi, Ben here from Paragon Property. I recently had an experience I wanted to share with a landlord that had been privately managing an investment property for a number of years. Now, this owner leased this property to someone who was a friend of a friend at the time, and this tenant stayed in the property for about 10 years. Now, during this time, the tenant was great. He always paid his rent on time, he took care of a lot of maintenance items himself, and the owner never really heard from him at all. So throughout the tenancy, the owner was really happy with his tenant. So he never really raised the rent and he didn't give it much thought. Unfortunately, things did get a little bit more complicated down the track. So fast forward 10 years and the owner decides that he really needs to sell his property. So he gave the tenant notice to vacate so he could tidy the place up a bit and get it ready for sale. Sadly, this tenant found it very difficult to find another rental property. When applying for a rental property, one of the most important things that an owner wants to see before they approve your application is your rental history. In the current competitive rental market like we are in now, with multiple tenants applying for some properties, a tenant with a solid rental history from an agent is likely going to be viewed more favourably than a tenant with only private references. This is because it's hard to know if the person giving you a reference is genuine and not just a friend or a relative. An agency reference is so important because it is non-biased and it's backed up by proof such as inspection reports, full tenant payment ledger and lease agreement. Another thing that an owner would like to see is that you'll be easily able to afford your rental payments. In this instance, this tenant was paying well below market rent for several years, so now he needs to prove that he will be able to pay a lot more in rent. So in the end, this cost the owner greatly, as he couldn't sell his property for a number of months until the tenant could find alternative accommodation. And it was really just a stressful time for both the tenant and the landlord. If you're selling a property with a tenant in place, then any prospective investor will want to see what kind of return they will be getting. And this won't be represented accurately if your property is being rented below market value. Your property can also be a less valuable prospect if you're trying to sell with a tenant in place and that tenancy has not been set up correctly and in line with rental legislation. So whether you're renting or managing privately, while this does work well in some cases, there may be unexpected pitfalls that you're not aware of. That's why myself and the team at Paragon are always here to offer any advice or assistance to help you along on your real estate journey.